So welcome to Eat, Theatre, Sleep, Repeat with myself, Jed Mills and Hayley Kay. And once again, another show of exciting guests.
Absolutely. Now, amateur dramatics and amateur theatre is hugely important to the community and to Blackpool's Grand Theatre. And we are delighted in this episode to be joined by two of the best. First up, we are going to be in conversation with Lynn Binns and Rhiannon Jones from B-Flock. So tell us what... I'll start with you, Rhiannon. What does B-Flock stand for then?
Well, it's Blackpool and Fylde Light Opera Company. It's not just inclusive to Blackpool because we do have people that come from all over the Fylde area. Oh, okay. Some coming from Preston, actually, to rehearse twice a week and perform as well.
So tell us how it all started then. How did kind of B-Flock begin? Because I know some of these have been going for absolutely years.
Yeah. Well, it was 1950 was the first ever B-Flock show. And we should have been celebrating our 70th 2 years ago, but obviously lockdown hit. Yeah. So our very first show was The Student Prince. Which I think would perform quite a few times, but not for at least 20, 30 years now. If we go back through our list, no, not in our lifetime. If you go back through the list of shows, which is on our website, you can see it's appeared quite a few times.
Yeah, and Lynn, as in your experience of Amdram, how did you get involved with it all?
Well, that's a little story to tell. So Rhiannon saw an advert in the Blackpool Gazette and they were advertising for people to come down and do the show 42nd Street. And we're going back to 1994 now, wow. So it's quite a while ago. And we decided we'd go along. We'd been in the Blackpool Gang show and involved with sort of like things at school when we were younger. So we went along, went to our first rehearsal and arrived at the building and stood outside and heard this really, really operatic-y singing. And we looked at each other. The door was locked. We couldn't get in and we were like, I don't think this is for us. So we went home. Anyway, we thought about it. We said, oh no, we'll go again next week. We'll get there a bit early and see if we can get in. Anyway, we did. We went back down the next week and there were people there. We got there a bit early and that was the start of our sort of like journey with B-Flock, really.
So together? This was you two together? Yeah. So you were very good friends, I presume? And
we've been friends
since we formed in gang show.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was 16.
And you sort of egged each other on to do it?
Yeah, because we were literally stood with me outside saying, oh, this sounds very professional, very operatic. I don't think we're going to be as good as them. So we nearly didn't go in, but we're so glad we went back the second time because... Well, the first person who spoke to us there, Shelley, as now we're still good friends with, 28 years down the line, as we are a lot of people that we met that very first time.
This was what I was going to ask. I mean, how important is friendship in these groups? Because you spend a lot of time together. How long do you rehearse for then? How long the rehearsal for?
For each show, it's approximately 6 months.
Wow.
Sort of like starting off at once a week, going to twice a week to 3 times a week. But the biggest friendships, I think, are formed the week of that show. So anybody who's new that comes along to the company, that week of that show is when that friendship will properly form, even though they've been forming bits throughout the rehearsals. Just the camaraderie of being in the theatre, doing a show, all together. It's just an amazing feeling. It's fabulous.
Yeah, I mean, I have experience of this. I do Acorn Antiques. This must have been around 10, 11, 12, whatever, around that era. And it was a case of, it was for a radio promotion as well, but it was, let's say the rehearsals must have been 4 to 6 months and then the week of the shows. And I remember still to this day, the people in those shows are friends, and when you see them, obviously we don't see each other as much, but we mix in similar circles. So you see them and you always go back to that time. And that's me just doing one show. So never mind, you doing lots of shows and just lifetime friends. A great community, I suppose.
A great community. And I like the fact that everybody comes from different jobs and occupations and some have families, some don't have families, but we all go out after the show with people who may be 30 years younger than us, but we don't feel 30 years older than them. You sort, because you have that shared interest. And where I found it very good is if you have a demanding job or something which is quite stressful that you find it hard to switch off from, you go down to rehearsals, and because you have to concentrate on what you're doing, everything else goes out of your mind and it is a total switch off. You just live and breathe the show that time of rehearsal. So it's been invaluable over the years for doing that as well.
And I don't need you to sort of name anybody here, but how long have some people been involved? I mean, you guys have been involved a long time. Have you been involved with them the longest now, or are the people that have been even longer than you?
We're getting to the stage where we are now nearly the oldest.
I mean, I don't want to put
no. There are still some sort of life members. There's a lady called Joan that comes down now every week and makes cups of teas and coffees, and she's
really
in her 80s, I
Sorry,
think
Joan.
now, but
she
doesn't look it
because she doesn't look it, and she can still hold a harmony with the best of them.
And she's still singing with other choirs and things around the area, and there's quite a few older people that still are involved, but they come and make teas and coffees. They'll do the raffle. They'll be on the social committee helping out there, making money for the company. So there's lots of people still involved that are older than us, but actually probably physically on stage, we're getting to be some of the older ones.
We nickname the golden oldies.
But what I like about Amdram is you talked about before, where you're going out with still people 30 years younger than you, 30 years older than you. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's a very much a unified thing. Sometimes I suppose in a football team, you get to an age, and I've got there now where you just can't, and that's that really. I know there's other bits, but with this, I think it's great. And what I like about it, there's always a part for somebody, whether it's a baby, to be played, or whether, it's an older person. There's always a part.
And there's lots of things off stage as well.
Absolutely.
And a lot of our family have got it. My husband used to come and do backstage. There's so many things that you can turn your hand to. You don't have to like standing on the stage. Lots of people like doing backstage, helping with costumes. It's a real team effort. And you feel that when you're doing, particularly show week, the camaraderie.
Well, we'll get on to Boogie Nights soon, which is the production that you're working on at the moment. You mentioned 42nd Street 20 odd years ago. Over the years, I think about this separately, but I want to know what's been like your standout shows that you've gone, oh my gosh, I wish I could just go back on stage one more time and do that show because it was such fun.
I think I know my favourite.
Go on then, Rhiannon.
Mine was Sister Act.
Yeah.
And I think that's partly because it was a comeback show. I'd had a break for a few years while I had a busy job and a young family. I was still involved on the periphery. I used to get involved and help backstage, but Sister Act was back on the stage. And it was just a real good feels show. There was so much for all the chorus to do. It was just had a lovely buzz about
it's rehearsals. It's a big ensemble, isn't it? I think that's what it is.
I think that was so lovely. And
fabulous
songs. Fabulous songs.
What about you, Lynn?
That was one of my particular favourites as well. But another one that I really, really enjoyed doing was Legally Blonde. That was a real challenge at the time because I didn't really know the musical very well, so I didn't know any of the songs or anything, but it was an absolutely amazing show, and it's still one of my favourite musicals to listen to if I'm listening to music. I absolutely love that.
I was going to say, is it one of those where when you do a show, you might not know much about it. You do a show, you love it, and then you go and see it, might be on at a West End or a touring production that comes to Blackpool. Is it then you go, that's what I'm watching, and that's what,
But sometimes it can be really disappointing.
Yeah.
Because Sister Act 1 in particular, we did Sister Act and it was amazing, and we had a massive stage full of people, and then we went to watch the professional version of it, and there wasn't hardly any people on the stage, and it wasn't as upbeat. And the same with 42nd Street.
That very first year we did 42nd Street, there must have been 40 odd people on the stage, and it was just the chorus numbers were just so full of life. And then when we went to see the professionals about 2 or 3 weeks later,
it's dreadful.
I don't think that can go in.
No, probably not. No, I think we did.
It wasn't dreadful. I know lots of people enjoyed it.
It was.
We just felt that we needed more bodies on the stage.
So what's your feeling then about when you go and perform at the Grand Theatre? Because obviously you're theatre enthusiasts, that absolutely shines out of both of you, but what's it like for people that have never done it to actually get on the stage and feel those lights hit your face when you're on that stage?
Can I step back before the lights even come on you? When I walk on that stage in tech rehearsal for the first time, I get goosebumps. Because you stand on the stage, you look out at the auditorium, and you just think, God, I am so lucky to be able to perform in such a marvellous theatre. And we never take it for granted, do we?
No.
You get that, just never mind the lights and the people out there, just that being in that theatre. I think there's very few Amjam companies that are as fortunate as we are in having such an amazing theatre to perform.
I agree with that. And what about I always think, Lynn, do you think of the people that have been on that stage and stood where, because like I say, not many people do actually stand on the stage, but then some of the international stars, and you're there in that spot using those mics, using that sound.
Yeah, you do actually. You do. And the other way as well, when you go to watch somebody famous and then you think, oh, wow, I've been on that stage. So it works both ways, really. Yeah, it is. It's quite amazing, really.
Well, tell us about Boogie Nights, then, your show coming up.
It's a good feel-good show. I think it's a fabulous one to come out of 2 years of lockdown. We actually started rehearsing it
beforehand.
Yeah.
A lot said this.
So I happen to say I'm not the best at choreography anyway, as our choreographer will tell you. But it gone totally out of my head by the time I came back to it 2 years later. But it's a feel-good show.
Full of 70s music. So it's loads of the disco music that we certainly remember when we were
young.
Discoing around in our younger days.
Don't blame me on the sunshine. Boogie Wonderland. It's
YMCA.
There's loads of mega mix at the end. So it's a bit like when we did Hairspray and things like Grease, where you get everybody up dancing at the end of the mega mix. And that, really when you stood on stage, to have that feedback from the audience is absolutely brilliant. So we want people to come along, have a good time, have a bit of a boogie at the end. They can come dressed in the 70s. Apparently, there's a prize for the best dressed costume. I don't know what the prize is.
Probably tickets for our next show.
But it all adds to the entertainment, doesn't it, if people come in the mood.
One thing I wanted to ask them was, what shows have you not done yet that you think, oh, I'd love to go?
Les Miserables. Absolutely love it. But whether that'll ever become available to the amateur operatic scene, I really don't know. Maybe after our time. But it is one of my favourites. I absolutely love it.
Beautiful. And I know it's probably not very trendy now, but I love Jesus Christ Superstar.
Oh, yeah.
And we did a few songs from that when we did it Loud 20 odd years ago. And I just,
that's amazing.
I would love to have done something like that.
Well, great. I mean, it's brilliant to have you guys in talking about it. For your company, how can people, listen to this, watching this, thinking, you know what, I want to give that a go, like you guys did back in '94.
Well, we've got a website, obviously, B-Flat Blackpool and Fylde Light Opera Company. We're on Facebook as well. There's the closed members group. There's also an open one, so the information goes on there. They can just message. And we are a very happy company. So we would love people to come down. And we've had some lovely people join us this time. And they've really, really said how much they feel welcomed, involved. And that's we feel as old members, that's one of our roles, to make people feel welcome. And because we've loved it, we want to encourage more people to come down
as well.
Well, Rhiannon and Lynn, thank you so much for your time today. It's been fascinating chatting with you.
Thank you.
And best of luck with Boogie Nights.
Thank you very much.
Hopefully we'll see you there in the audience.
Well, thanks to the guys from B-Flock. But now, continuing with our amateur dramatic scene, we have some more special guests in.
Yes, and we're joined by Chris Thornton and Kaz Gray Thornton from BOP. So I'll ask you then, Kaz, what's BOP?
BOP is Blackpool Operatic Players.
So we were just talking before then about how thriving the amateur dramatic scene is in Blackpool, and not just Blackpool, the Fylde Coast, but how long has BOP been going then?
BOP started in 1953. The first show was Waltz Time, and the leading lady was a lovely lady called Doreen Harbron, who, until her death about 18 months ago now, was actually our president as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. I mean, I was going to ask you, Chris, then. I mean, you had your late president, but other than that, are there people that have been involved for a long, long time? I mean, I'm not asking you to out anybody's age here, but...
No, I'll try and avoid that actually. But we've got a couple of people on the committee that have been around for a long, long time. Another couple, John and Marion Chesters, who are on our committee and have been stalwarts. John was previously, is president.
He is now our president, yes.
But they've had roles for ages. Again, as members of the society, performers, and for I don't know how many years. Sorry, John and Maz, but I don't know for how many years now of that. And we've got other people around the society that have been around. We've got a really good core of people that form the backbone of the society, that have served on the committee, given up a lot of their spare time, and it's that enthusiasm that we keep trying to grow to get new members in.
Yeah, I'm gonna make a complete assumption here, so you're gonna have to tell me if I'm completely wrong.
Gosh, this could go horribly wrong.
Because, and I've done amateur dramatics before, we discussed before, but I'm gonna say, did you two meet at amateur dramatics? I was like, come on.
Sorry. No, afraid not. It's a nice try.
Yeah,
nice try.
No, it's just because of how, close people get, how friendly people get, how much of just that companionship, the community of amateur dramatics.
Absolutely.
That was my assumption.
Well, that's how I got sucked in, because my background is very different in reality. Kaz and I got together in 2006. And really, that's the first time I've been engaged or involved in amateur dramatics at all. So obviously, I came to see Kaz and support Kaz. And for the next 10 years, I spent time learning about BOP, learning about the amateur society.
You were roped into everything, weren't you?
I was absolutely roped in, and that's where the enthusiasm.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got the bug as well.
Yeah.
The one thing I do have to admit, and it's a mantra within BOP, I can't sing, I can't dance, and I can't act. So I've had to find something else to do, and that's why I look after marketing for them.
Fantastic. Well, and this is also how important it is, because we've talked about being on stage and how great it is on stage, but actually how important people behind the stage is.
We couldn't do without them.
Set design, actually organising what shows you're going to do. And that's a question that I wanted to come to you about, is that how do you choose a show, and how do you get a show? How do you be able to, because you obviously have to pay for it, but just tell me that process, because a lot of people maybe don't know. And we said to the other guys they'd love to do Les Mis, but that's not come to the Amdrams now, because I presume they're just keeping it at the moment, but maybe in 30, 40 years it might do. So just tell us through that process.
It's no great science really, but there's a lot of Googling on the internet, seeing what is available. As long as you know who the rights holders are, like there's, mine's going to go blank now, isn't it?
MTI.
But certainly MTI. Musical Theatre International, who have now got an office in London. They hold the rights to a lot of shows. There is also Andrew Lloyd Webber's really useful group. So if you go onto their websites, you can find out what shows are available. And it's literally getting an application form from their website, filling it in and seeing if you are going to be fortunate enough to be able to perform it. There are quite a few restrictions. Some rights holders say you've got to be in a theatre with a capacity of so much.
Didn't know this.
Yes.
Okay.
Others state that you can do their production, but there's not got to be the same production on within, say, like a 50-mile radius.
Gosh,
Right.
challenging in Blackpool.
Do you sometimes have to send like a demo in to, because they might go, I wouldn't mind this, seeing what
it
you
doesn't
do.
really work like that.
No.
No,
Okay.
we really just apply. I mean, I think there's two sides to it. There's that process around the license holders. We try and look as far in advance as we can as to what is available, but we also have to constantly think about our market, our audience, and what will appeal, to the people within the Fylde and things like that. So that's a constant challenge. We're obviously trying to broaden your audience and support the audience that you've got. You're looking for shows that will appeal. And obviously the key thing is we're looking for the well-known shows that become available. And that's a case of looking ahead all the time.
And I presume some are dearer than others. Am I right or not, as in shows? So like, for example, maybe a new show that's always going to sell out, that might be a bit more expensive, or does it not work like that?
There's not a great difference, to be honest.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's fairly consistent in terms of the rights. And to be honest, it's not prohibitive to a large extent, because most of the rights holders want to get their shows out there. But the restrictions are things like not putting two shows in, two societies in competition. That's why the radius.
That's good.
Yeah. So it's that sort of organisation,
Something I wanted to ask, because you've mentioned it a couple of times and it occurred to me, how important is the role of the committee? Because you've mentioned them a few times, and I'm guessing when you have committees, then you have treasurers, you have presidents. Like,
Yes.
how important is their role and how does that work? I'm a little bit unclear.
Well, the committee is effectively the management team
Okay.
for the society. So it does tend to be people that have got specific skills or specific experience in areas. We have our president, we have our treasurer, we have our finance people. I look after marketing, for example. Kaz has got her roles. Everybody's got a responsibility, but it is, as you say, it's quite a team. There's around about 12 on our committee.
Well, just running through our committee ourselves, Chris has already said we've got our president. That's John Chester's, our lovely secretary is his wife. She's been the secretary for many, many years now, has Maz, and she does a lot behind the scenes that people just don't realise.
Yeah.
She is the one that will write out to the rights holders, finding out if a particular show is going to be available. She is the one that once we've made the decision about where we're going to go, she will write to the scenery people, the costume people, get all the contracts in, and she gets everything prepared so that at the next committee meeting, as a committee, we can sit down and go through the order of business and make the relevant decisions. Everybody has got a role to play. Jilly, she is our production coordinator. So she will liaise with the production team and the cast members and bring everything together. As we move into the Grand Theatre, she is then the one doing the risk assessments. So there is
a real labour of love, though, isn't it? You know,
the pay is great.
Yeah, but the reward isn't it? And it is a labour of love.
The reward is amazing.
Yeah.
That night, every night, you walk out on that stage, the curtain goes up, and dare I say it, I've been doing this 40-something years now. That thrill never goes.
Yeah,
it never goes. It's
amazing.
just fantastic.
And it's amazing, that, isn't it? That there's not many hobbies that probably happens with. You know, I don't know, maybe
there's a lot of effort going into building up to, if you like, a single for us.
Yeah,
you know, the grand show is the money's, it's got to be a commercial side to this, and it's the main funding that keeps us going. But everything throughout the society builds up to those 7 nights. Yeah, seven performances. Sorry, the 3 matinees and the 4 evening at the end of that particular year, and then the whole process starts again. It's quite easy to think, well, there's a few rehearsals and then you go on the stage, but in reality, for me, our next show, as you know, it's Kinky Boots, and that's on in April, mid-April, before Easter. But I'm already now thinking about our next show, which is Shrek, and the minute Kinky Boots stops, then I'm starting.
How many shows are you ahead? So, I mean, you don't have to tell us what shows are coming up, but are you just, like, say, King and then Shrek, and are you ahead of that with one more show, or have you got a couple more shows?
Not at this moment in time. COVID really puts, making us cautious, we'll put it that way.
Well, beforehand, a few shows?
We have been known to have like 3 shows, one that we're performing or getting ready to perform, one for next year, and then, looking at the year after. Yeah. We haven't got that far ahead, purely and simply because as COVID hit, it was 3 weeks before we were due to go on stage for Shrek. So all that money, all that time and commitment from the production team, as well as from the cast. So we've just invested far too much to just not do it at all. So it was just, let's see how things go. Are the audiences going to come back? It's still an unknown quantity at this moment in time, but this as summer, Chris has said, we are about to go into the theatre now to perform Kinky Boots, and I am so relieved to say we are going to have some amazing audiences. The numbers are there.
That's great.
Yes.
And because people miss it, I think that's it. I think once you get back and your bottom sits down on that chair, you go, oh, it's just lovely. I was in not that long ago, a couple of weeks ago, watching a play. And my husband, I say it every time I go, whatever I go and see, whether it's a musical or a play, we sat down to watch this play, and as soon as it was finished, I went, we don't go and see enough plays. Anyway, well, we do go see quite a few.
You do have that feeling. Yeah, you do have that feeling.
Oh, gosh, what's next? Like, what's the next thing I want to come
on? Especially at the Grand Theatre, when you sat there and you just look up and you see that beautiful domed ceiling.
Do you know what I
It's
like about the theatre? And you don't get this like at sporting occasions that I go to as well, but let's have a drink and an ice cream. I love the snacks. I love it, you know, and then you just sat there and you're just watching, like, you know, we've talked about before, you just, everything's switched off because your phone's got to be off.
Yeah.
And you
It's total
completely
escapism, isn't it?
engrossed. So whether you've got a really busy life, you know, it's hectic, or it's a date night away from the kids, or whatever it is, you're completely then in that moment. And that's hard, you know, in this day and age.
It is an occasion.
Yeah.
And, you know, the Grand Theatre, the atmosphere about the Grand Theatre, it's a very special place. And, you know, you look at the sort of, I think for a lot of people, maybe it's the first time they've been there, I've seen them, you know, several times after, you know, they've been the first time, they look around and suddenly realise how ornate it is.
Yeah.
And it's, although it's a good sizable theatre, it's 1,000+ seat capacity. It's quite a homely, and to be honest, that's brilliant. But as you were talking about before with the audiences, it was a bit of a jump to the unknown this year, because with COVID ending, we just weren't sure how the audiences would react, how confident they would be. And I've got to say, with the Grand, from my point of view, working with the Grand, it's been brilliant, because their teams were sort of decimated. You know, they had to lay people off, furlough them, things like that. And they've been great coming back. And the support we've had has been fantastic, sort of, and everybody's sort of working to build up that local theatre thing again, you know.
Were you concerned a little bit with COVID? And I'm just talking as amateur dramatics as a scene, because I can imagine you guys speak to not only the guys we were having before, but around the UK. I don't doubt there's plenty of Facebook groups, emails fly around. But was there a concern in the amateur dramatic scene about COVID and money? As you said, spent a lot of money on Shrek that obviously couldn't happen. And it's not a case of, we'll just get all the money back, because it has to go out, doesn't it? And that's it. You ain't getting it back. Yeah. Was there a concern in the amateur dramatic scene that COVID could potentially wipe out some real big institution players?
Absolutely. I mean, to be honest, I think financially everybody had to hunker down, you know, just keep it flat. As charities and the way that we operate, it wasn't too difficult to do that, but it was a potential threat. But the biggest thing, I think, was about the whole scene, about the damage to professional theatre, as well as, because it all filters down to, you know, people being theatre fans, and it's the theatre fans that come to see us as well. So I think that was the biggest existential threat, was that sort of impact on the theatre industry as a whole, and trickling down. And would audiences go back again? When would people feel confident and things like that?
Yeah, you've touched on the performances that you've got coming up, but I don't know how great my maths is, but am I right in thinking it's a big year for you next year then?
Yes. Next year is our 70th anniversary. Yes. Wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's going to be a Shrek celebration for
Is that what it's going to be?
Everything will be green.
Yeah.
Oh, I love this.
Right.
Another thing I was going to ask about Shrek, did you have to recast the show?
We will
Had people's commitments changed? I mean, how does it even, because I guess it's unprecedented. It's never happened before. So how has that kind of affected the process of putting Shrek on the stage eventually?
I honestly can't answer that. We haven't really thought that far ahead. I would imagine that we will probably retain everybody who had been already cast, certainly Shrek and Princess Fiona. There are going to be some people who, for one reason or another, are no longer able to do the show.
See, that's what I was getting at.
I would imagine that their particular parts would be recast.
Yeah.
But
because it's that thing of, these are real people that have real jobs.
Exactly.
And you know, you don't know if they're pregnant or they might be
relocated.
Things change,
yes.
don't they?
Yeah, there's some of our younger members that have been very fortunate in taking their training further and going down to London, Italia Conti, places like that. So there will be some gaps that will need to definitely be filled.
Well, there we go. Obviously, you'll be listening or you're watching, gaps to be filled potentially for this massive production.
Exactly.
Which it will.
We'll kick off with Shrek in September.
Amazing.
And then it'll move quickly into rehearsals and auditions at that stage.
Great. Well, what about the people that have come through the door? You know, might not have been super famous, but you must have had some talented people that have come through the door from young age. And this, what I want to try and get at is, we started radio, and I got involved in like hospital radio because you did it for free, and you know, you learnt your craft there, and because someone just was like, go and play some tunes. And I'm thinking, for theatre, amateur dramatics is just brilliant because there isn't any pressure, but there is that week, and that's quite a nice pressure to have. And also for me, it's that sort of nice discipline that you can't ring up and go, I can't come in today. You know, you've got a role to play. And I'm just thinking it's a great starting ground for people that want to maybe be in the theatre.
It certainly is. I do know of the top of my head at least one person who has done very, very well. God bless her. You know, she stuck at it, and she is in the West End now. She's in Mary Poppins, and
that's amazing.
Dare I say it, she is actually the understudy for Mary Poppins for when Zizi Stralin has any time off.
And that's what amateur dramatics does, isn't it? I can imagine for her, you know, when people maybe interviewing, how did you start? It's this company that, you know, she'll always have that memory.
It's a great hobby. But it can be a pathway to a professional career, which is fantastic. You know, and that, as you say, that's just both on the stage and behind the scenes. You know, lots of people get their enthusiasm from that initial hobby.
And what would you say to anyone that's kind of listening to this or watching it and thinking, I fancy it? Like, how much of a commitment is it, and how do people find you?
We're on Facebook. That's the biggest way nowadays. Social media speaks volumes, doesn't it?
I think the thing to do is to watch our website and our Facebook page, because that's where we'll make the announcements about shows. But it's also where we'll say, right, you know, we're ready now to kick off the next show, and we'll invite people down, anybody down at that particular stage.
Great.
But to sort of see what it is, see what it's like, what it's like to be part of it, and if they want to audition for parts.
And also backstage stuff as well. Are you always after people for, you know, set designs, tech, stage management?
And front of house as well. Even the meeters and greeters that take people to the seats, the program sellers, the raffle ticket sellers.
It's a full thing.
Gosh,
it's
Well,
a huge undertaking, isn't it? It's when you think of it, and you literally sort of break it down into those individuals that make up the committee, the raffle ticket sellers, the people that are on stage. It's a huge undertaking when you think of it, isn't it?
And we are all people who have got day jobs.
That's
the difference, isn't it?
To give you some idea, something like Shrek is probably a cast of over 50.
Wow.
Now that's the cast. Then you take into the committee, the helpers, on the shows and things like that. We probably get up to about 80 people.
A lot.
It would be involved, and that's not including the help from the ground that we get with the professionals on the scenery and things like that.
Well, it's been great having you in. It really has, and talking about it. Kinky Boots, one of my favourite shows. It's a great show.
Fantastic.
Good luck with that. And I bet you can't wait just to get back on and start performing.
We can't. Everybody is just so fired up for it now. We're ready. We want to get back where we belong.
Do you know,
our second home is calling.
Do you know, I've seen some of the stuff you put out on social media and some of the rehearsal room stuff. It's great. It's really definitely whetting people's appetites to just get back in the theatre.
Very energetic.
What a show to go back with.
It is. Yes. It's a great show. And if people, like you're saying about people maybe watching or listening to this thinking, I'll have a go. What are the website and the Facebook details for you guys?
Well, in terms of tickets for the shows, then that's all done through the grant.
Right.
Yep. Our website is Blackpool Operatic Players, funny enough, .com. And from the Facebook pages, again, it's BOP.
And just find you on there, nudge you, and everything's on there from auditions and
it will be. Really. Yes, it will be.
Right.
For once we're finished with Kinky Boots and going on for Shrek, as you were asking earlier, anybody come down, just try it out. You never know until you try something, do you?
Definitely.
Absolutely. Well, Chris Thornton and Casway Thornton, thank you so much for your time today. It's been fascinating chatting all things.
Okay, thank you very much
for having us.
Thanks for joining us on Eat, Theatre, Sleep, Repeat.
Like, share and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next episode.